Alright, today we're printing the fourth impression of our Hasui Snowy Village design. And this is a darker base tone for the trees and the buildings and the path and the figure in the midground. And there'll be another dark impression after this. Last night I did a second gradation in the sky, just at the top portion here. And I did not record that. I was kind of late and I just did not feel like turning on the camera. So it's the same as the impression before. I just concentrated the gradation towards the top of the sheet. Now this impression, I added a little bit of green and a little bit more black to the same pot of color. This is kind of a monotone print, meaning it's all kind of the same color and values overlapping each other. I'm adding a little bit of variety to each color to give it a little bit more of an interest. I think I'll be doing the yellow impression next, which is the light in the windows, and then the final impression, which is like a really dark, almost black color. I'm realizing this paper has a lot of alum in it. You really have to press hard to get this pigment into the paper, and I believe that's just the amount of alum that's in the sizing or the glue that's in the paper. So I have to really put a lot of pressure into this, but this really starts to bring the print together. This is a nice little print. So 2 dots of paste, 2 healthy dabs of ink. We have to be careful to get our paste and ink out of these little holes and cracks. We don't want the tamari to build up and appear on our print. So at the end we just kind of use the edges of the bristles and pick out these little tight areas where paste can collect. I'm also leaving my print in the pack after I print this color, because I'm going to do the lights, that little bit of yellow in these windows. I'm going to do this next. So I'll just keep my print the same moisture level. And because the sizing is so hard on this paper, I just have to spend a little bit more time pushing in the ink into those fibers with the Baron. But there's a lot of nice little details here where tamari can build up, especially these little vertical lines. And so after we make our impression, we put it right back in the pack. So you can see I've already done that many so far. And that moisture level in the paper will remain the same. We want the moisture level to remain the same as much as possible, because the paper can contract and expand, and then our registration won't be lined up. For this size of a piece of paper, or for this size of the print, it doesn't expand and contract that much. But if you're working on a print that's twice this size or 4 times this size, you will definitely get some expansion and contraction. And the paper, the washi, has a grain to it, meaning the fibers run usually in the long direction of the print, and that goes with the grain of the wood. Or you cut the sheet into the long way. So when it expands, it actually expands. If the fibers are running this way, it will expand this way. It won't expand this way, it'll expand this way, because all the fibers are lined up together. Cotton paper, on the other hand, it expands in all directions because it's just really tiny fibers or pulp, and they just kind of all expand in every direction. And that's even harder to control if you're moistening the paper. That's why if I'm using 100% cotton rag paper for oil-based printmaking. I usually don't moisten it because after you moisten it, there is sizing in the paper, and I believe it will shrink a little bit, and then every impression after that, it's gonna seem like it's off. So I keep it dry when I'm using oil-based pigments. When I'm talking about this technical information or showing you the process that I'm using, it might not necessarily be true to your work. These are just things that I've learned along the way as a printmaker. I did take a printmaking class in college, and we did mostly etchings. And I did one woodcut, oil-based woodcut, reductive at the end of the class, but I kind of did that on my own. And so everything else is pretty much self-taught and self-learned. I've read a lot of books and I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. Through practice, I've learned all these things along the way. So I'm willing to share them with you. You might not necessarily agree with everything, and that's okay. So if you have a easier way or another way, that's great. But share it with me if you would in the comments below, so we can all learn together. It's looking good. I really like these snowy prints by Hasui. I designed one of my own a couple years ago. This is an example here. It was this little skier, cross-country skier, going into the woods next to this huge rock formation. I did this in 2 color schemes. This is a little bit light, but this was inspired by Hasui. So I like to learn from these prints as I'm printing them and then apply them to my own work. That's kind of the reason behind making these reproductions. So learning from the artist and learning from the design, and then turning it around, applying it to your own work. It's also just really fun trying to figure out how they made these prints. So here we go. You can see the gradation I made last night at the top. So that's it for now. I'll just continue to run these